Hello comrades, welcome to the next loadout video. This one I'll be displaying my mid-70s NATO loadout. Now if you're unfamiliar with the Milsim I sort of do, it's all centered around the Cold War. Like, we do have some things we are going to try and do which are, you know, noughties, 2010, all that kind of stuff. But most of the stuff is 70s to noughties, early noughties to be precise. So let's just get into it, and we'll start off again what's right in front of us, which is my OG 507, I think it is, combat fatigues, just in your standard olive drab. Can't give you anything more about that. It is just olive drab fatigues. Very high quality, you know, because these are combat fatigues. Run through the bush, crawl through the bush, walk through the bush, whatever you want to do through the bush, this stuff will hold up to it, and it's super easy to repair. You can actually get repair kits for it. Other than that, we'll move on to the next piece, which is my pants. So here's my combat fatigues, which again, OG 107, I think it is. Super high quality, again, will hold up to anything. Run through the bush, walk through the bush, crawl through the bush, I've just explained it. Again, also really easy to repair, really simple, really comfortable. Again, in your standard olive drab, unlike my previous loadout where, you know, there were a bit of a mix match. This is, you know, proper military style, everything is on point to match. Other than that, we'll move on to next piece of hardware. Now, some milsims can get pretty cold as they do go through the night, or it is just a cold day. So here is what is just called a NATO Parker, which I think, to be precise, is an M65 Parker. This is sort of, you know, runs the same sort of style, except it's button up, not buttons. But it's the same sort of style, olive drab fatigues, except this has got really hardcore liner in it. It's waterproof, it's all that kind of stuff, so it's cold weather officer style kind of wear. And so if we're around at camp and not doing any sort of patrols, or, you know, it's a lightweight patrol, I'll take this if it's cold. Other than that, we'll move on to load bearing gear. Okay, this is my Australian M65 bandolier. Now, everything you've seen here is basically American, and now you've seen a piece of Australian gear. Well, it's because our milsims we normally run aren't actually related to countries, they're more related to, you know, Red 4 versus Blue 4 kind of thing. So, you know, as long as the gear is to the country you're playing, it is completely fine, it works. So anyway, this is just sort of a way I can carry small amount of gels and other little items. If I can't put in the load bearing gear, this is just a handy piece of kit which put small pouches on me. We'll move on to the webbing. So here's my LC1/2 star web system. You would have seen this in my previous video if you watched my regional forces one, which it was explained why I have duplicate webbing. But if you didn't watch that video, I'll explain it again. Because regional forces is sort of, you know, in the country we've based it in, they're not necessarily a rich military with their own equipment. A lot of the time you're allowed to just use surplus of other countries, and that's why the other setup is very mix matched and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is actually what this web system was used for, is for this setup. Again, going to go over it. It's got the 3-hole metal quick release system. Now, on the LC2 system originally was actually 2 holes, but there are pictures on the internet of 3 holes. So it is accurate to the 70s style. You got your butt pack, M16 pouches, which holds 3 standard mags, and you got your LC1/2 style Y harness web system. I will move on to hardware now, because that's really all I can cover on this. Other than that, it is Alice, so it does work with the Alice system and Alice clips. Again, really heavy duty, easy to put together, and what I like about it, I'd say what really drew me to it was just the fact I can use it in prone position pretty comfortably. Other than that, we'll move on to hardware. Now, before I move on to the fun hardware of weaponry, there is a very important piece of kit which I do normally bring along, which is my angle-headed torch with red lens on it, because red lens is better because it keeps you concealed more, believe it or not. It's just in the woodland, it's just a repo one. It's still the low quality bulb, high quality build of the original type. So, you know, as far as the realism of it goes, it's pretty realistic. Again, use this on night patrols and just movement around the base, as it isn't that great. But again, as well, because sometimes the Sims are in the 80s and stuff, night vision wasn't really around then, so this is sort of all you have to resort to. It's just a handy, reliable piece of kit which clips onto the Y harness, which you'll see in the variations of my loadout. Now here's the fun piece of kit, which is my rifle. Now, if you're familiar with your firearms, you would notice that this is a Magpul Masada. So, you know, which isn't 70s style, but we don't really get caught up on having the guns time period correct, especially in the Gel Blaster scene where most of the stuff is modern. As long as it, you know, if you're playing Ruse 4, you're running AKs, and you're playing NATO, you're running non-AK style guns, it's completely fine and outmills them. On top of that as well, if you're running regional forces, whatever goes. It is a very good blaster. This shoots about 260 feet per second, got semi-auto and automatic, runs 7 to 8mm gel balls. One thing which I say is definitely a standout feature outside of the really high quality external and internal builds is the magazine itself. You can actually pull it apart, so you can do field cleaning on it, because gels can get caught up in the gearbox inside the mag. So, really easy to use. It is one of the more pricier gel rifles on the market, but it's also probably one of the most highest quality ones. As well as it being Jingming, you know it's going to have a good gearbox, regardless if it's the legendary Gen 8 or the V2. Plenty of upgrades for it. You know, you can make these things run out, you know, 400 FPS, and actually have the gels come out, of course. Have it run 400 FPS, no problem, all that kind of stuff. So, very good blaster, and I will guess I'll go to my final piece of kit, which is my backpack. Oh no, it's not actually army issue. Yes, the army issue ones cost 170 bucks each, and what else I bought for 170 bucks? Almost an entire British loadout, which video on that when that arrives. But this is sort of my Alice pack. It sort of has the same size. It's as a medium Alice pack. It just doesn't have sort of the army style pouches, but it does have the Alice frame and sort of web system, so you can still carry those really large loads on it. This is for the large patrols and just sort of walking out to camp and all that, just so I can carry my gear, and I normally just keep it dumped and just run the web system, because the butt pack carries plenty. Which I do actually sometimes have the butt pack off as well, because, you know, lightweight is awesome. Other than that, I'll show you the variations of my loadout now. well, that was my 1970s NATO style loadout. I hope you really enjoyed this. We've got some cool projects coming along with this kind of gear. Stay tuned for one final video on my most modern setup. When that arrives, I'll go through that as well. Other than that, hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you on the next.